like this. We up.
Welcome to the State of Hockey podcast, featuring Justin Jelnick and Joe Hayford. Let's talk hockey.
Welcome to the State of Hockey podcast, episode 4, edition for Monday, the 6th of April. It is now 6 days until Patrick Waugh gets fired, or we have proof that Joe Sakic is a moron. The general manager of the now eliminated Colorado Avalanche. I feel so bad for them, don't you, Joe?
Yeah, it's right on the top of my feel bad list.
Joe, how are you doing this weekend? This afternoon? Evening?
Not too bad. Eating my sorrows away with some Reese's peanut butter eggs.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm still working out my turkey coma, so it's good. This is, of course, Joe Hayford, co-host of the State of Hockey podcast. Pretty short week this week for the Wild. They only played 2 games.
Yeah, in New York and Detroit. It's a rough week for the Wild.
Yeah, unfortunately they did not win either, but let's go ahead and start with our week in review. So Thursday night, the Wild were at home against the top team in the Western Conference, the New York Rangers. They dropped a 3-2 decision in this one. What were your thoughts, Joe?
Big thought here, passing throughout the entire game. Just unbelievably sloppy passing. The worst passing display I've seen by the Wild in quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just not a lot of connections. Though I guess one exception to that rule, Dumba had 2 good setups. He got the assists on both goals.
Yeah, he actually played out of his mind on Thursday night. Unfortunately, he didn't carry that into Saturday, but he had an excellent game against the Rangers. One of the only players making good connections out there.
The Rangers led in this one for all but about 3 minutes. Pominville and Vanek were your goal scorers for the Wild, but then JT Miller got the winner about a minute and a half after Vanek got the tying goal in the third. And the Wild did make a good effort after that, though.
They did. They peppered the net pretty well. They did well when Dubnyk got pulled. Just they weren't cashing in. They were holding the puck too long. Same old story when we lose. Just holding the puck too long, not shooting at the net.
Palmville could have got that last one clean with 3 seconds left. They might have got a very lucky tying goal there at the end.
Yeah, you know, they were looking back at the replay on that, and I was listening to KFN on my way home, and apparently it had caught a glove and was redirected.
It did. But he still had a piece of it, and who knows if it comes to him cleanly, maybe. But they come up short, 3-2 loss there, and Henrik Lundqvist had a great game for the Rangers, even after having a slow start coming back from his injury the week before.
Yeah, Henrik Lundqvist, again, played pretty well that game, standing on his head, making some unbelievable saves, backdoor dishes that he just reached across and grabbed. He's Henrik Lundqvist. There's a reason why he's elite.
He is on my favorite goalies list, no doubt about that. So no points for the Wild on Thursday night. They got a couple bounces. They were in that game despite a slow first, but that one just didn't bounce their way.
Yeah, it was a rough loss.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to Saturday, and kind of the same story again. It was slow, at least for the first 10 minutes or so, for the Wild to start the game. But then Zach Parise got him on the board, but then Detroit quickly answered. They ended up losing this one 3-2 in a shootout, Parise getting both goals, including the tying goal early in the third on a deflection. But what were your thoughts on this one?
Many thoughts. Just an awful display by the referees. That was kind of coming in from the New York Rangers game. There was pretty awful display of officiating in that game as well. Passing was a problem for the Wild again. Not playing the first period and not cashing in, holding that puck too long. We had a 5-on-3, and we weren't able to cash in. We had no shots on goal on our 5-on-3.
That's obviously not good. I mean, this is the type of stuff that got the power play so much criticism earlier in the season, just refusing to shoot and, people not moving and getting open.
Yeah, I know he's your favorite player, and I'll give him the shout out on this one. He seems to be the only one who knows how to pepper the net on a power play.
Who would we be talking about exactly?
Matt Dumba.
I love that guy. But so eventful overtime, but nobody got the winner. An 8-round shootout. They eventually lose on a goal that went in the net and came back out off of Dubnik's leg, but it's still counted on replay.
You know, there's some speculation, too, about the Nino Niederreiter post. I heard a couple of people on Twitter say they looked back at it, and it looked like it actually did cross.
You know, I listened to that shootout on the radio last night, actually, and Reed thought Nito's actually went in off the first, and then apparently it was signaled otherwise.
Yeah, it was signaled no goal, and it wasn't reviewed, which I guess I have more of a problem with, even if it didn't go in, because they reviewed the Helm goal. It should have definitely been a review. Looking at it in full speed, it did not look like it went in. I tried to play it back, and there is a possibility that puck went in the net.
Funny you bring that up, but at the risk of going on a tangent, I remember Nino's game winner in Game 7 actually was reviewed because it came in and out so quick, and it hit the back post and made the noise. So, but it did obviously count, and that was history.
Yeah, again, that one was reviewed. This one wasn't.
Right. And that one was much clearer. But I don't mind the fact that, the Pepsi Center crowd had to sit through an extra 5 minutes. That's an underrated part of that whole thing that I appreciate, that they had to deal with that horror a few more minutes before it was official.
Yeah, that was nice.
Does that make me a mean person?
Not at all.
Okay.
They seem to judge us anyway and tell us that we're pretty awful fans over here and that we're a dirty team. And
I
don't think I've ever seen so much hypocrisy in my life coming from Colorado Avalanche fans. But
I'm totally gonna nerd out on you, drop a Picard quote on you. If you're going to be damned for what you are.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm totally a nerd. All right, so but the getting the tying goal in the third did save the Wild a point, puts them in a better position going into this week's game. The Wild are sitting on 96 points with 4 to go. They are 4 clear of the bubble, and SportsClubStats.com has them at 99.4% to get in, but now only 2% to improve to third or better. So after everybody in the state of hockey went nuts last week about passing Chicago, even though Chicago still had 2 games in hand, Chicago has rattled off 4 straight wins and is pretty much out of reach now.
Yeah, Chicago would have to lose out, and we would have to win out in order to make that happen.
And honestly, who knows how much difference that's really going to make now, because all 3 of the teams at the top of the Central are now credible playoff opponents, because it is essentially the 3 teams are now within 2 points of each other going into Sunday night's game between St. Louis and Chicago.
Yeah, when the podcast drops, there's a very good chance that all 3 teams could be tied at 104 points. Nashville holding the slight edge in regulation and overtime wins as a tiebreaker, but good chance that we could all wake up tomorrow morning with a 104-point 3-way tie at top of the Central. And
when we get into listener tweets later, we'll get more into possible playoff opponents as well. So, but before that, we'll talk a little bit about tomorrow's game against Winnipeg, because that will be Minnesota's first chance to clinch a playoff spot.
Yeah, it's winning in. It's the ultimate scenario. You win the game, you're in the playoffs.
Yes, and it does have to be a regulation win in this case, because allowing Winnipeg a point won't clinch Minnesota ahead of Winnipeg. So, and they'll need a win of some form tomorrow for other scenarios involving a Los Angeles loss to Vancouver. Otherwise, they will probably end up having to wait until Tuesday for their chance to clinch a playoff spot. And we'll get into this more toward the end of the show, but they have a tough road swing.
They have a very tough road swing. It's not going to be an easy way to close up the season, and 99.4% to make the playoffs is still not 100%, and I've seen crazier things happen.
Well, funny side note on SportsClubStats.com, the Wild are still 83% to get in if they go 0-4-0, because it's pretty much down to the 3 teams they have to chase, and pretty much all have to win out or go 3-1 down the stretch, and that, of course, being Winnipeg, Calgary, and LA that are left.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting end of the season. There's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching, my favorite time of the year.
I do enjoy that too. So, but I guess we can go ahead and hop right into 3 stars if you're ready.
He scores!
You want stars?
You believe in miracles? Yes!
We got stars.
And the Wild are a Dubnyk save away from a shootout win.
State of Hockey's 3 stars of the week.
Save Dubnyk! And the Wild win it in the shootout.
We can do that.
All right, so 3 stars this week. We had a little banter about this throughout the day, but we settled on 3 here. So we'll start here. We went with Matthew Dumba, my favorite player in the whole wide world, as the 3rd star this week. Had 2 assists in the Ranger game on Thursday night, and is still the team leader in Corsi for the 2nd straight week. 65%, both overall and in just 5-on-5. About 65% each, and I source our Corsi numbers from war-on-ice.com. So they're well-organized site for all your advanced and traditional statistics.
Yeah, Matt Dumba had a spectacular week. Even the way he played defensively against the Red Wings on Saturday, he played well offensively. He got into the zone, he got into the play, he tried to make things happen. It's something that you're looking to see from all of our defensemen, and unfortunately, not all of our defensemen follow suit.
And I'm willing to concede Dumba's still prone to the occasional rookie gaffe and making the occasional poor decision, but I do think he's doing more to drive possession than he did before he was sent to Iowa earlier this year.
I still think that Matt Dumba is going to be a top 5 defenseman in the NHL within 3 years.
Ooh. I think he will get there. 3 years might be quick, but I think he's going to get there. So I don't have any doubt about that. So, but that, yep. So we went with Matt Dumba 3. We got Jason Pominville, number 2. He had a goal against New York and 2 assists. He's also second in the team in Corsi in all situations at 64%.
Yeah, Jason Pominville, this is one that we both, I think, agreed on that he definitely needed to be in here. He gets his share of criticism on Twitter, as we've discussed in the past. Mm-hmm. The guy shows up every day. He plays well every day. I did see on Twitter he got compared to Vanek and how he plays defensively, and I've just got to go and say that I don't agree with that at all.
I mean, Pominville's not the speedster, and that's part of why even though he was speculated to make the Olympic team in 14, that was part of, I think, what held him back. But he does plenty well with Parisi and Granlund, and that line had a pretty good week. So,
yeah, they ever since it was about April last year when they got put together, we made that big comeback. I want to say it was against the Canucks, actually. And they've kind of been a line made in hockey heaven ever since.
I suppose I probably spoiled the number 1 star this week, but we are going with Zach Parise for 2 goals against Detroit, including the game tire that led to a much needed point, and Parise is still going very strong.
Parise, just unbelievable, sheer will and determination. He's in front of that net all the time. He took a pounding in both games. Like I told you earlier, I lost track of how many cross checks he took. And he will continue to just take a beating in there and just stand tall and wait for the deflection. Hats off to that guy. Unbelievable effort and grit, determination. Any adjective you can throw at that guy that's related to sports, he's got it. And couldn't ask for a better player on our team.
I totally agree. I love Parise very much. And I think... that's exactly why he's good. Is he's willing to do the hard work. He's willing to hustle, and he's the guy that can find the net. And I guess that he's on 33 for the year after Saturday's game. So, but yeah, a very good week for Zach Parise. Many honorable mentions this week as well. Don't want to leave Granlund out. He's clearly was contributing on that line. He had 2 assists and a 57% Corsi this week. The second line did well in Corsi this week too, despite not hitting the score sheet, and Koivu only playing 1 game. Leopold I've got as an honorable mention as well. He played good in his game this week, or played well, excuse me. And then and Nino Ryder actually turned in a 52% Corsi number this week, despite having negative zone starts, meaning he's contributing to moving the puck out of the defensive zone into the attacking zone and driving possession that way. And Dubnyk was okay this week. He gave up 5 on 48 shots faced, so 89.5% was his save number this week. So I think he's fine. Nobody panic. It just he let in the one weird one against the Rangers, but I certainly am not worried about him.
Yeah, that's a big difference in his week. I think that one doesn't go in on the Rangers, and he's probably our third star of the week.
Probably if he only gives up one against New York and the Wild escape that one.
I want to go back to probably the most intense game and the most intense feeling of the game against the Rangers. And hats off to our fans. I was there and I got to witness it firsthand. The hockey smarts with our fan base, what they witnessed and why they were cheering when Brodziak stickless on a 5-on-3 bats the puck out of the air and tries to clear it. Just being able to understand how important that was.
Absolutely.
Just another hats off to our fan base for recognizing the work and the effort of Brodziak. He, again, takes his share of criticisms, but he's one of the best penalty killers, if not the best penalty killer that we have.
He deserves an honorable mention this week just for that play alone.
Yeah,
and
him and
Granlund
Granlund
also had a moment there.
Yes, he did. He, falling down lacrosse style, he just batted it backwards or backhanded it through his legs and cleared it.
Yeah, I'll have to find this on YouTube, but I believe it was Game 4 against Chicago last year, or maybe it was against Colorado. Granlund had that amazing shift where he blocked 3 shots when the other team had pulled their goalie in the last minute.
That was against Colorado.
That was the Colorado series. That was insane.
That was the first game we won. That was Game 3.
No, Game 3 was the one Granlund won after getting knocked over. I was at Game 3.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it was Game
4.
4. But yeah, and Granlund took a beating that night too. I remember that. So
Granlund seems to take a beating every night. He seems to be the brunt of everyone's animosity.
But so one more time, we went Prezi 1, Dumba 2, Pominville 3. That was your 3 stars of the week. So let's move on to our listener tweets. We threw out a few topics this week. Earlier this week, we asked about the Bufflin suspension, and at Drain Scott, Scott Drain on Twitter, said he was very glad Bufflin got 4 games. Should have been more, but NHL lacks the balls to hand out real discipline.
Last thing I want to do is get on the NHLPA bandwagon, or in the NHL player safety bandwagon, I should say. They didn't have the precedent to suspend him for more games, and if we've all noticed anything from the NFL, we kind of need a little bit of precedent. Otherwise, you're kind of running around with like a chicken with your head cut off.
That point's taken. So,
that being said, it was malicious. It was downright dirty. He loaded up. I mean, he cross-checked him right in the back of the head.
It has nothing to do with hockey, and I don't have a problem if DPS wants to get a lot harder on these things that have nothing to do with just a decent hockey play gone wrong. This has nothing to do with that. This was an intent to injure, and the PA needs to take a bigger stand against DPS that you need to protect our membership and not just protect the accused in this case.
Agreed.
I mean,
I definitely agree with that.
I think this should have been a 10-gamer. Personally, I get he gets 4 because Bufflin has been relatively, quote, clean, but this one should have been much harder, and I think he's very fortunate to get off with 4.
Yeah, 10 games would put him into the second round of the playoffs if they make it.
Yes, that is a big if for Winnipeg right now. But we know for sure he'll be out until their finale against Calgary, which means he will be out when the Jets are at the X tomorrow night.
Which is okay by me. He's reminds me a lot of Brian Bickle from the Blackhawks. He's kind of a wild killer.
Yes. So, we've got one other listener tweet to hit up before we get into our last topic, and at uncanny_Megan, it's Megan Canny. She was asking what happened to Koivu during Saturday's game. He apparently took warm-ups and didn't play, and then Russo said something about too much Corona. Or scratched cornea. Scratched cornea, that's what it was. So that's just a freak thing that to happen.
Yeah, I was looking back at the game against the Rangers to try and see if I could see where it happened, and I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I've had a scratched cornea in the past.
Oh, yeah?
It is not fun.
No.
I actually thought I had pink eye. That's how bad it was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's definitely not fun. I hope that he is well enough to go tomorrow.
Yeah, and Russo seems to be reporting that is the case, that Yo pretty much said they fully expect him to go tomorrow, or tonight, since you'll be listening to this on Monday, so against the Jets. So that's good news there.
Absolutely, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see him wearing an eye patch, though.
Pirate angry Miko. Let's get that trending tomorrow.
There's a new spin on things.
Let's get that trending. Okay, I reopened one other topic on Twitter on Sunday. Now that it appears Chicago is going to be in the mix as a probable playoff opponent, that seemed unlikely when we posed the question 2 weeks ago. Does that change your thoughts on who the most favorable playoff opponent is? I got at J Danger Dawson, J Dawson, on Twitter. He says Nashville 100%, and I'm sorry, he says Nashville 100% of MN Wild fans should agree, and that was absolutely the answer we got 2 weeks ago, and I think that's probably where I still am too.
Yeah, I would agree with that to a certain extent. The one thing that you got to take into account is, as much as we've solved Pecorine, he's still an elite goaltender, and the playoffs, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
I more think that St. Louis, I think, is a more favorable opponent just because their goaltending is a little bit more wishy-washy, so to speak, and I think we can take advantage of that. Our playoff style suits playing St. Louis a little better, I think. So I would lean towards St. Louis for that reason.
At uncanny_Megan, that's Megan Canny, is kind of with you. She's at a toss-up between St. Louis and the Preds. So I'm probably with you there. I think Nashville's probably still the most favorable opponent, but just to address the new kid on the in the race, at Min Golf, at MINN Golf. This is Kyle Anway. He writes in, he's not afraid of Chicago as in years past, but he is their distant second choice to Nashville.
Distant second. I would not go that far.
I think it's close. I think everybody agrees Anaheim's probably the team to fear, but
I think we make it past that first round, and I'm not really going to fear anyone. I want to see how they play in the playoffs. If they play like they did last year, with the goaltending that we have this year, I think everyone should fear us, and it's that simple.
Well, it is nice to be in that situation where you're the team nobody really wants to take in the first round.
If we can manage to play 60 minutes a game throughout the playoffs, we should be the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. And at the beginning of the week, Monday, Vegas odds had us at the third most likely team to win the Stanley Cup this year.
That's true. That was big news. I actually told Chad Graff at the Pioneer Press, I tweeted at him that I knew it was April 1st, but apparently it was legit that the punters are definitely on the Wild now.
I mean, if you know anything about hockey, I don't know why you wouldn't. Our biggest downfall last year was our goaltending, obviously. We played, 4 or 5 goaltenders in the playoffs?
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and they did very well, but obviously Dubnyk, if it's shown he's capable of doing that. Although I don't know how much playoff experience Dubnyk actually has. He hasn't exactly been playing for great teams that go deep.
Yeah, that's definitely something to check on. I don't know, from the teams he's played on, I don't know if he's ever made the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely talk about that next week when we get into our playoff preview for sure. But I will say that before the season, we got the Wild at 14-1. Andy and I, our producer, went halvesies on a ticket when he went to Vegas. So So hopefully, if this is the year, well, we're going to end up pretty good on this deal.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun run.
And there's Andy chiming in for us. So, that's pretty good. Well, all Central all the time for the rest of the week. Should we talk about the games that are left?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go.
So tomorrow night in a game that you are attending, which means Thomas Vanek is sure to score a goal, the Wild have the big win-it-in tilt against the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, speaking of Vanek, the thing, I give him a hard time on Twitter sometimes just because it seems like every time I give him a real hard time on Twitter, he does something amazing. So part of my bashing on Vanek is that, and part of it is just being fed up. But
just because it works, there's a connection.
There is definitely a connection, and I kind of debated it with Tony Wiseau, the Hockey Wilderness editor, today about Vanek, and he has his moments, that's for sure. He definitely looks good on a score sheet, but the bottom line is that he's still -5 on the year.
Yeah, I mean, but at least he's got that score sheet upside. He wasn't even getting that at the start. And based on some of your tweets this week, I figured you probably went back to being a Vanek basher, and then you're off the Vanek neutral wagon.
No, I'm still on the Vanek neutral wagon.
Okay.
He still wears green and red. Sometimes to the detriment of our team, unfortunately.
You wore green and red when you were still a Vanek basher. That doesn't have much to do with it.
That's true. That is true. But I mean, after a while, I don't like being a negative person, and
I know.
At some point in time, I've got to start looking for the good in him, and he's definitely turned it around, and he's definitely improving.
And he scores goals in games you attend, which is going to be crucial tomorrow. So.
Exactly, and if he can keep doing that, I'm okay with that.
I think the Wild get it figured out. I think they played two tough opponents this week. I thought they would do better against Detroit than they did, but I think they're gonna come out blazing against Winnipeg. I think they're gonna get their regulation win they need to clinch. We're going 2 points here.
I'm going 2 points as well, and the only reason I say that is because Bufflin is not in the lineup. As I mentioned before, Bufflin has been a wild killer.
And Winnipeg's goaltending has come back to earth a bit too. So
yeah, Pavlik made some unbelievable. I mean, he had some horrible goals that he allowed against Vancouver, but he made some pretty sweet saves as well.
So all right, but we're both going to against Winnipeg. Then that's the front end of a 2-2. They have to go to the United Center to take on the Chicago Blackhawks on Tuesday evening. The suddenly red hot Chicago Blackhawks, Joe.
Win or lose on Monday night, I'm going to go with Minnesota Wild getting 2 points against Chicago on Tuesday, and that's just based on their history of back-to-backs. We seem to dominate the second half of a back-to-back. We don't need any help finding our legs early in the game. It seems to be the only time that we play well in the first.
Yeah, they do that. They've done that rope-a-dope thing a couple times where they get run over, Dudley keeps it in it, and then they can just turn it on for the last period or two. But I don't like the situation for the Wild at all, coming off back-to-back, and suddenly Chicago looks like they've figured out how to win despite their injuries. So I'm going to give the Wild a 0 on this one for my prediction.
Oh, I've got them for 2 because of the back-to-back and because there's no Kane, another Wild killer who's not in the lineup.
The Hawks seem to have figured out how to win without him. So we'll see what happens. And Chicago will be on one-day rest, so against Minnesota. But then again, maybe they go to Vegas on their day off again, like that time they came to the X and played like terrible.
Oh, the February 3rd game.
Yeah.
I unfortunately sold my tickets to that game.
Oh.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like,
that's
every time I go to a Blackhawks game.
Or did he? I really don't know. But okay. So we're going to differ on that one. So Thursday night, they're at the Nashville Predators in another what could be a really big game. Joe, what are your thoughts on this one?
That's going to be a good game. If I had to worry about a game this week, this is the one I'd worry about. But I still think we pull out 2 points here. I'm going to actually give us a sweep on the week, getting ahead of myself here. But
really, I'm going to give them 2 here as well. I think that they're the team that's least scared to play at Nashville. I think they're more than capable of getting 2 if they play the game they played a few weeks ago when they were down there. And Nashville's starting to get hurt too down the stretch. That's starting to contribute to their swoon. So, but yeah, I think we're going to go 2 on this one.
All right, agreed on that.
Okay, so we're 6-4, you against me. I guess I already know what you're going to say. Saturday afternoon's game against St. Louis, which is an NBC game now. Joe, what do you think?
I think I'm going to have a lot of trouble listening to NBC Sports talk or call this game, but
It depends.
another 2 points for the Wild.
I love Doc Emmerich, though, a lot. So if he's doing it, I'll be fine. But, if it's any of their secondary teams, I get what you're saying about the frustration of nobody knowing players or anything like that. It's really going to be tough because part of it's going to depend on how much this game is even going to matter to either team on Saturday. Because, it's starting to look to me like the Wild are going to be a situation where they've already clinched a playoff spot and are going to have no chance to improve on that. It'll just be a matter of holding off any trailing wild cards, and they're probably going to be a spot where they've got that pretty much locked up too. So, and St. Louis is out to beat Minnesota. So I really don't know. I could go anywhere here. So I'll just be a weenie and say 1 point on this one.
Yeah, I like us, even if we don't have anything to play for and St. Louis does, which is looking like it's more possible than not. I think that we're going to love to play spoiler here. I think we're going to love to hold them to that second spot in the Central, or even possibly the third spot in the Central, depending on how it shakes out.
Yeah. So, I guess one more question we'll bring up going into this week. If the Wild are in a situation where they have the playoffs clinched and they can't improve, do you get Kemper a start in here at some point?
I think you have to give Kemper a start just to kind of see what he's got.
I'd hate for him to have not played since January and then, forbid, we're in a situation where either, something happens to Dubnyk or his game just, goes to hell. And Kemper hasn't played since January, so I'd like to think he's going to get in this week, but I've been wrong every time I thought Kemper's going to get in. So
yeah, I've been wrong as well. We go back to that old flow chart. Do the Wild play tonight?
Yes.
Dubnyk starts. No, he doesn't.
Yes, at Gilles Farrell's got that one in his timeline somewhere. So.
That's definitely the best flow chart I've ever seen.
It's a good one. So, but we'll see if they deviate from that. Saturday being the last day of the regular season, the playoffs I believe will start on Wednesday, and so we'll be looking forward to that. So on next week's show, we'll go back to Tuesday show, the day before the playoffs. We'll preview the playoffs, who the Wild's opponent will be, presuming their 99.4% chance gets in. And we'll go from there.
All right, sounds like a plan to me.
So so listen to so you can find us at SOTSOhockey.com. You can follow Joe on Twitter at SOTSOHockeyJoe, myself SOTSOHockeyJJ, and look for all kinds of good stuff. We'll try and live tweet games where we can. I'll definitely be on tomorrow night or tonight against the Winnipeg Jets, and that'll be a big one. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating their march into the playoffs.
Yeah, if the Winnipeg Jets lose tonight, that's going to make it a tougher game for tomorrow.
Yes, so absolutely. So we'll find out what happens, and we'll tweet all about the scenarios throughout the week. So for Joe Hayford, I'm Justin Jelnick. Thanks for listening to the State of Hockey podcast. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to the State of the Hockey podcast. The music was created and produced by Deeb. To hear more of his tracks, visit soundcloud.com/Deeb.